off, and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on. I think
He missed the complete that. He's crazy
Other
stuff.
side, Freitas is on the grass on the infield for 4. He slides through. He tags Richard.
Hello and welcome to the American Sim Racing Camping World Truck Series. This is round 12 coming to you live from Michigan International Speedway on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Samuel Ryman, and with me in the booth is Evan Pasoko. Directing the action behind the scenes is Kevin Brown, and our camera sets are provided by Dougie Beard. This race tonight is being sponsored by CJ Automotive. CJ Automotive has been your go-to used car dealer in Eastern Pennsylvania since 1972. CJ has been selling the best quality cars, trucks and vans for over 40 years now and still going strong. Don't see what you want? We can get it for you. Call CJ Automotive today at 610-863-4448 or visit us at cjautopert.com. Also, check out the number 21 truck in tonight's race with CJ Automotive on the hood. Go Nick! So, like I said, we are here at Michigan International Speedway and the trucks are currently in qualifying. It was a very tight field in practice. The top 20 trucks separated by 0.6 of a second. Evan, why don't you tell us a little bit about this circuit?
Yeah, that's right. Tonight we're here at the Michigan International Speedway, MIS, a track that I've been fortunate enough to be able to attend a couple of races in real life, and this place is bad fast. Now again, we're out here with the trucks, so they're not going to be pushing 200 plus like those cup cars down into the corners, but the fact that this racetrack is so wide is going to provide to very intense racing. You talk about the track itself, we're in the Irish Hills of Michigan. Brooklyn, Michigan is where this track is located. 72,000 fans can pack into this facility to watch a race week in and week out. Owned and operated by the International Speedway Corporation. Broke ground back in 1967, opened the following year in 68. $4 to $6 million cost. And the track itself, obviously that D-shaped oval, 2 miles in length for tonight's Michigan National Guard, 150 laps, is going to make that 100-mile distance. The banking, 18 degrees, very, very wide corners, 12 at the start-finish line, and 5 degrees down the back straightaway. That makes up this speedway.
Yes, it does. So, we've got the Speedway. Let's talk about the drivers who are going to be competing on the Speedway. Now, the ASRS is a fixed-up league, so all these drivers are racing with the same setup under the hood. That might mean that the times are a little bit closer than usual, and that's being reflected in qualifying right now with 0.06 of a second separating the top 3 trucks. And the driver topping them all right now is Gary Whitson. Gary Whitson is also topping the point standings heading into this round. 73-point lead over Tim Johnston. That will probably be erased in a few rounds' time when they go into the chase. Bryce Whitson sitting there in 3rd, Nick Cohan 4th, Jason Christen 5th, and then behind them we have Alex Bates, David Gibson, Jim Foose, Jordan Harnish, and Dan Winter rounding out the top 10. The top 10 trucks after round 15, this is round 12, will get to make it into the chase. And I've got to tell you, Evan, it's looking very competitive for racing here right now. As I say, the times in practice, they were separated by about 6 or 7 tenths of a second. Here in qualifying, it's very much the same story.
And you mentioned that 13 truck of Gary Winston, again, top of the practice charts, top of the qualifying charts, top of the championship standings as well. So that guy knows what he's doing there behind the wheel of that 13. But again, you mentioned that we really need to start paying attention to the chase for the championship here. Out of tonight's race, we have 3 racers remaining, going to be heading to Bristol, Mossport, and then Chicagoland before we get set for what is going to be, looks like an 8-race chase for that championship. So again, it is very competitive, and it is an open qualifier also. That time nearly coming down, just over 2 minutes left in the qualifying session. Obviously that 13 is up at the top of the pile, but if you take a look, 1st through 19th only separated by about 0.6 of a second. When you factor in that draft when these guys are in big packs, that's only going to lead to very exciting racing.
Yeah, and as you mentioned beforehand, the top 3 trucks, Gary Whitson, Dan Murray and Bryce Whitson, separated by 0.06 of a second, but then again we have 2 minutes left in qualifying, so that could very well change. Dan Murray is a name I'm not entirely familiar with, currently sitting there in second place. And you know what, Evan? Some people would say it's undesirable to be starting from second, but honestly, there's so many different lines that you could race through the corners here at Michigan that Dan Murray, even if he does start behind Gary Whitson, may still be able to challenge him in the first couple of corners.
Yeah, for sure. And again, these guys, obviously, as you mentioned, they're running a fixed set also. So always that debate of, do you want to be starting on the inside row, the outside row? Obviously, that inside's going to have the jump because that's where your leader's going to be. So typically, you'll see a guy starting in third place. Maybe get the jump on that guy. That's going to be starting on the outside of that first row in the number 2 spot. But again, these turns, they're so wide, they're so long, that you can really try to keep that gas down a lot, especially off of restarts. Obviously, when you're up at full speed, you got to back it down on corner entry before you can get back to the gas for about 2 seconds. But on these starts, you're going to see these guys pushing that thing full throttle all the way down to that back straightaway. And if that guy on the outside lane, like a guy starting second or guys fourth, sixth, whoever on that outside lane, as long as they can get a good start and keep that guy on their inside, they may have a shot at getting a little bit of a run out of corner number 2 and drag race it down that backstretch.
Yes, very much so. Well, one truck actually flipping upside down during qualifying. This is an open qualifying session, that's why you see multiple trucks on the track at the same time. Currently about 20 seconds left, and then of course any trucks that have started a lap will be able to finish it, but so far no changes at the top. Now we do have a couple of minor stories heading into this race. ASRS do not mess around with their penalty system. And one thing we're going to have to keep an eye on is that there is an incident point limit during this race. So that probably means hopefully we'll see some very clean racing. But the restarts are going to be quite wild here because of what Evan was talking about, the amount of different lines that you can race here and able to make moves on some trucks. And one driver who's going to have to be making a lot of moves is one of our regular front runners, Evan, is Aaron Easler. We're already under the impression he is being given an end-of-line penalty for the start of a race.
Yeah, right now he's currently being scored 12th on the qualifying grid as qualifying actually comes to a close now. The red flag displayed at the start-finish line, but was talking with the officials there during the drivers meeting, and apparently that 33 truck committed an infraction, so we may see him receive that EOL penalty and be forced to drop to the back at the start of this race. Again, right now being scored 12th. He did go out there for qualifying, but that 33 again may be sent to the back of the line.
Alright, so qualifying is over. The trucks are getting lined up on the front stretch, so let's run down the order real quickly for you. Gary Whitson will be starting on pole position by 0.02 of a second over Dan Murray. That's quicker than you can blink, believe it or not. In fact, L. Bryce Whitson Jr., just 0.06 behind him in third. Much the same story there. John Peters just a couple hundredths back in fourth place. Nick Cohan and Cody Gibson on row 3. Jason Christen and Tim Johnston on row 4. And Aaron Cleanhans and Dan Winter round out the top 10, Evan.
Yeah, James Grahula is going to be the number 18 truck starting in 11th. Aaron Easler again being shown in 12th spot. He has received an EOL penalty, so he will drop to the back of the line. 13th is going to be shown to Ricky Harden in the number 98 truck. Tim Knott alongside him in 141 is going to be starting in 14th. 15 belongs to the 87 of John Martin. David Gibson in the number 3 is going to be starting in position number 16. Betty Ellison, the 05, is being showed in position number 17. Alex Bates going to be starting 18th. Jim Foose 19th. Carson Oven 20th. And then the 68 of Ty Hester already at the back of the pack rounds out our 21 truck field, who has also been given an EOL penalty for this start.
Yes, just Aaron Easler and Ty Hester was going to start at the back anyway. Trucks are going to get one pace lap here. They are rolling, currently heading down into turn 1. This is a 2-mile circuit, so we've got a bit of time once again to remind you that this race is being brought to you today because... And that sponsorship is CJ Automotive, which has been your go-to used car dealer in Eastern Pennsylvania since 1972. CJ has been selling the best quality cars, trucks and vans for over 40 years now and still going strong. Don't see what you want? They can get it for you. Call CJ Automotive today at 610-663-4448 or visit them at cjautopa.com. Also, check out the number 21 truck in tonight's race with CJ Automotive on the hood. Go Nick, and go Nick very much indeed. That number 21 truck will be starting from 5th place on the 3rd row. Just a couple turns left until they go green here. Evan, who's your eye on?
Can't go against that 13 of Gary Whitson again. Top of the practice charge, top of the qualifying charge, top of the championship standings, but I don't think you can can out Dan Murray in the number 5 car. 2nd in practice, 2nd in qualifying. So once they get out in there and race trim, it's a whole different story. We're getting set to kick it off at a quarter number 4.
Yeah, and like I say, Dan Murray, not a name I'm too familiar with, so I'm very curious to see how he will do today as the pace car is pulling off. He has pulled off. Gary Whitson has control of the field, and here he goes, number 13 truck, leading them away for 50 laps here at Michigan International Speedway.
Dan Murray's going to get caught sleeping on the outside of the number 1 row. The first side-by-side battle down into the corner is going to be for the number 2 spot, the 00 machine. Bryce Whitson Jr. on the inside of Dan Murray. They're going to be door-to-door through 1, and now at a corner number 2 down the back straightaway. Watch for that 5 of Murray to utilize that run at a corner number 2. He tries to pull up to Gary Whitson. However, I don't think he's going to clear that 00 quite yet in the 3.
And there's plenty of action going on, 2 wide, 3 wide throughout the field as the drivers who were given the EOL penalties attempt to run through the field. But this battle for 2nd continues. Dan Murray winning out right now, but Bryce Whitson not willing to give it up. Behind him, waiting to pounce, are John Peters and Nick Cohan in 4th and 5th.
A little bit of an advantage to Dan Murray down into the corner, the 00. However, Bryce Whitson Jr., he's still there. The 5 now pulls about half a truck length at a corner number 4. He's going to get that run down the back straightaway. He was going to clear him for the number 2 position. Yes, he does. And now Dan Murray in sole control of the number 2 spot as the top 10 going to single file out down the back straightaway.
Yeah, and remember that these drivers are going to have to take care of their tyres and maybe even their fuel as the race goes on, because these trucks have a limited fuel capacity and will be required to make at least 1 pit stop during this race. Michigan, renowned for pit strategy, so we'll see what happens there. But I'll tell you what, Dan Murray is reeling in our leader, Gary Whitson, probably a bit of a draft helping him there, Evan.
They can utilize a little bit of that down the backstretch. Now, it's not going to be like Daytona, Talladega, that kind of stuff, but for sure you're going to be able to get up behind a truck and try to get whatever aerodynamic advantage you can get. The only thing you're going to want to avoid from that is not be too close tucked up underneath somebody else's truck down into the corner, where you'll get that aero push. And side by side, and now position change for the number 1 position. The 5 of Dan Murray is going to go to the point. The 13 of Gary Whitson up the racetrack down that front straightaway, and he has company. The 00 of Bryce Whitson Jr. wants the number 2 spot from him as well.
Gary Whitson does not seem to be liking that high line. There he goes. He's lost 2nd position. He's lost 3rd position. Here comes John Peters through. He is all the way down to 4th. He was leading this time a lap ago, and now he's going to lose that to Nick Cohan. A very bad couple of corners for Gary Whitson. He'll be trying to get single file here in that 5th spot. He's got a bit of a gap back to Cody Gibson in 6th.
Yeah, so Gary Whitson's going to drop from the number 1 spot back to 5th. On a racetrack that track position is of a premium. Not a good couple of laps there. He got tracked on the outside lane, and again, this racetrack is a multiple groove racetrack. You can make that high side work. We saw that when we saw the side-by-side battle for that number 2 position in those opening 3 laps or so, but the 13 machine just not enjoying the outside, and now trouble on the track. 1 car around, the 68 of Ty Hester with rear end damage, and looks like he may have had some help.
There's a crash on the backstretch as they're all trekking up. John Martin gets turned into the wall. But yeah, very unfortunate for Ty Hester, because he is one of the faster drivers who was sent to the back because of an EOL penalty. And he got tipped by the number 2 truck of Jim Foose, who is actually a league organizer. But the thing about that's really bad for Ty Hester, is that he's attempting to try and race his way into the top 10 so he can make the chase. This is certainly not going to help him.
Now entering tonight, he sits 12th in the championship standings, and he has 38 points out of that number 10 position with 4 races remaining. So not the start that he was looking for. And you also mentioned the 87 of John Martin. He found the fence down there at a corner number 2 down the back straightaway. And the 87 machine riding the inside lane, and he didn't get tagged. The 87 just lost a handle of that machine at a corner number 2, and he's going to pick up a slight bit of front end damage, but a very strange incident for John Martin in the 17, or John Martin in the 87 rather. That was at a corner 2, and that was after that yellow flew.
I was very surprised at the wreck. Oh, and there's a wreck going on in turn 3 right now, under caution. Tim Foose and Tom Hester. I'll tell you what's going on here, guys. I wonder if that was retaliation. Because Jim Foose is a league organizer and Ty Hester been disqualified from the race. I wonder if that was Ty's way of saying, Jim, I don't approve of you giving me a penalty.
And that's questionable, because you got to look at that incident down there into the corner. The 68 had help. And you watch the replay and you say, okay, well, if the 2 truck of Jim Foose knows that he's got somebody on the outside lane, he could have given more room. But at the same time, again, the 68, it's not Jim Foose's job to yield. The 68 is a truck that is out of the preferred lane. The 2 car is the one that's making that pass, and the 68 ends up kind of cutting down on the nose of Jim Foose's machine, which is what put Ty Hester into the fence there. But you're definitely right. He did receive a disqualification. He was DQ'd from the race, but not removed from the server. And that 68 truck comes flying in at full speed down into corner number 3 and just demolishes the number 2 Chevrolet of Jim Foose. So Jim Foose is no longer on the racetrack as they sit right now. That's a very interesting turn of events.
Yeah, it was, and I was watching Jim Foose pull his truck around to pit road. I believe he's actually retired from the race now. That truck was crabbing badly. I mean, it was driving more sideways than it was driving straight. So yeah, there's going to be talks about that one, and I can kind of see both sides. But honestly, at the end of the day, what we got to look at is you see 2 potential chase contenders there just having a bad race, and you know, maybe they'll be able to put it behind them and go into the next race with.
I don't think either of them are going to forget this. Keep in mind, Jim Foose. He only had a 20-point cushion, the 10th place in the championship standings. So he is kind of, on the edge there for the chase as well, and he's out of this race.
And the other thing that got my attention as soon as those words left my mouth was the next round is Bristol, and Bristol isn't exactly a track where drivers are known for being friendly. Anyhow, the lights are off on the pace car. We will be going back green in 1 lap time, and that will be at the completion of lap 8, so we will have 42 laps to go. We had some takers on pit road, and I'm trying to see who the first of them off was.
Right now, Dan Murray, he leads, and he was one of the drivers that elected to stay out under the caution flag. A couple guys came in to get service there under the yellow flag. Not too sure the numbers on them. I know at least one of them that came down was Carson Obe, who came down in his number 118, but he's riding around towards the tail end of the lap, and he actually comes down once again here to top off before we go green.
Yeah. And you can't really blame him for that because of how crucial pit strategy is. Now, Dan Winter is currently sitting in the 8th place, and we're being shown that he had a pit stop. But I have a feeling the truck you're really going to want to watch is the truck who was leading, who will be restarting in 9th place, which is Gary Whitson. Now, the other truck I'm going to want to keep an eye on is Aaron Eastler. He was doing some very aggressive racing, trying to get through the field after being given that end-of-line penalty at the start of a race. He was able to stay out under this caution, and he will be restarting 6th.
Lights off on the pace car as the field paces through corners number 3 and now through corner number 4. The iRacing Ford First Mustang pace car gets ready to take the sharp left-hand turn down to the safety of pit road. He does so at a corner number 4. Dan Murray in control.
And Dan Murray is already on the gas, and that's taken everyone by surprise. Aaron Eastler almost gets up into the wall. He's going to lose a lot of spots.
And that could cause some trouble for those guys behind him. A couple of guys that had to avoid him may receive black flags from the sim for passing before the start-finish line. One car that had to sneak by, the 81 truck of Dan Winter, had to go by. Not sure what's going to come of that, but that could have easily been a big pileup. They managed to figure it out down the back straightaway. Dan Murray has a 5-truck length lead up front.
Yeah, and Bryce Whitson has been able to take second from John Peters, who was certainly challenging him for that position. So John Peters getting his name up in the mix. Look at this happening going back here for about 8th position. Gary Whitson underneath Tim Knott, and then they're 2 wide behind between Dan Winter and Ricky Harding. And look at the Pennzoil truck of James Kahula going all the way down to the apron to attempt to make the pass on Dan Winter.
2 wide, 2-3 rows deep, and now contact. The 33 of Aaron Easler is going to get into the back of the 81 of Dan Winter. Dan Winter is going to slide up and out of the groove. Now look at the 38 truck through the middle. Tim Johnson as they fan out 2-3 wide down the back straightaway. A lot of hungry hounds back here in the pack trying to claw up front.
Yeah, and this is all about a battle for 8th on back, being led by James Kahula and Aaron Easler, who I'm sure will be wanting to try and break free of this mess. Tim Johnson, one of the top contenders in the points, and then they're 2x2x2. Noah's arcing it down the front stretch with Dan Winter, who's actually lost several positions at lap. He went from 9th to 12th, and now they're 3 wide. Look at this, the Guinness truck of John Martin going through the middle. Jason Kristen chickens out in the number 02 truck, probably a smart move there. John Martin though, oof, good grief, there's just so much going on. They're 4 wide.
And they're going to catch a slow truck. One truck catching the fence there and is riding the high line, trying to get out of the way. That's Tim Johnson. Everybody is able to avoid him, and none of these guys wanting to give an inch as all this battling going on outside of the top 10.
Yeah, meanwhile, you're missing nothing up front. Top 5 is Dan Murray, Bryce Whitson, John Peters, Nick Cohan, Cody Gibson. They're all single file. Really, this is where all the action is. Different strategies going on. Some trucks on older tyres trying to conserve fuel, falling back who are at the front. Some drivers on newer tyres going all out on fuel, trying to race their way through the pack. And Aaron Easler gets a little bit loose up turn 2 there, but able to keep on circuit. It looks like the boiling pan is beginning to simmer down a bit.
And just like we saw to the 13 when he was leading Dan Murray, out stuck on the high side, the 00 of Bryce Whitson Jr. down to the inside. And at the start-finish line, it is going to be that 00 truck in the lead now. As he goes high, the 151 of John Peters going to remain on the low line side by side for first. He's going to get it on the inside now, door-to-door, sliding up, and it's going to be close at a corner number 2. Now the 5 of Murray with the run. This is making 3 wide.
He thinks better of it. This is what John Peters attempted to do on the restart, and he wasn't able to make it. They are going to go 3 wide. And John Peters decides to back out, but Bryce Whitson does not get a good run through turns 3 and 4, so they're all going to bottleneck up again. And really, the biggest winner here may be Dan Murray. He's got a good run, but he doesn't have the slipstream. Right now, Bryce Whitson does have a length over the rest of them. So, which lane is he going to pick going into the corner? He's going to keep on the low line, high side this time around. And it's going to go back door-to-door for the number 1, the 151 truck of John Peters, doing a great job navigating that high side through 1 and 2. And as they drive down the back straightaway, the 151 of Peters can't quite clear that 00 of Bryce Whitson Jr. for the number 1 spot. They're going to go back door-to-door. Meanwhile, behind them, Dan Murray sits in 3rd, and a slide job by the 00 at a corner number 4. A short track move here at Michigan is going to put Bryce Whitson back on top this time by. These drivers have a lot of respect and a lot of trust in each other to be able to race like this. They also have a lot of talent to not have wrecked so far, and I may have spoke too soon. They really got bumper to bumper right there. But Bryce Whitson stays in front with John Peters, Dan Murray, and Nick Cohan in 4th rather, getting loose in that number 21 CJ Autopar.com truck. Cody Gibson rides behind him in 5th. They're going to stay single file, but only for this time around.
And although they are single file, it's only about half a truck length that separate all of these drivers. So again, the fact that they are running a fixed set race shows that you really got to try to work for anything extra that you can get. A little bit of a crossover. No, John Peters is going to have the block thrown on him. He fake tie and slid to the inside down into corner number 1, trying to get around Bryce Whitson up at the front of the field. Can't get it done, and they still remain single file for the top 4. And a little bit of battle for 5th. The 07 Cody Gibson going the wrong way.
Yeah, or he may just be thinking, hey, I want to get out of this. Here goes John Peters. He's having a look again. And I almost wonder if we're going to start seeing some bump drafting here before too long. Michigan's not the worst track to do it. Bryce Whitson trying to come down. He can't quite clear John Peters yet, though. John Peters maybe even trying to get a bit of a side draft. Look at Nick Cohan there, coming up, attempting to get third place. And now they're 2x2 again, but Bryce Whitson still sitting in the catbird seat. John Peters filters back in. They remain single file, and they can't do this too often, but otherwise they're going to begin burning off their tires.
Yeah, that 5 of Dan Murray wants the number 2 spot. He goes to the inside and slides up the hill. He's got to get out of the gas there as he drove it in a little bit aggressive. Does he get the run that he needs at a corner number 4? No, he does not. The 21 of Nick Cohan going to go to the inside. That's going to be side by side for position number 3 as the lead lap cars here take lap number 18 in the works as we slowly approach our halfway point in tonight's Michigan National Guard 100. Bryce Whitson Jr. continuing to play defense up front. And now that 21 of Cohan entered turn 1 on the bottom. No speed. The 5 of Murray is going to clear him. The 98 of Ricky Harden as well. And now Harden wants a spot from that 5 of Murray down the back.
Yeah, someone might want to remind these drivers that this is actually a bit of an endurance race for the series. Last week's race at Pocono was only 30 laps long. This is a 50-lap long race. Tim not actually in the background there in 8th place, getting a bit in the wall. So you can, I mean, it only takes one minor slip-up to throw your whole race away. So I'm really surprised to see this much aggressive racing going on. And they're still side-by-side for third here between Dan Murray and Ricky Hardin. And once again, they're proving that to be very respectful, very clean, very trustworthy drivers. Bit of bump drafting going on between Nick Cohan and Dan Murray up on the high side. I just wonder, Evan, how long this can last.
They're making it work for now, but you got to think if you continue to do it, look at this, 2 wide, 2 rows deep, maybe 3 wide. It is going to be the 21 of Nick Cohan looks his nose to the inside. No, the 5 of Dan Murray is going to shut that door. This battle is for third on back, and it is affecting their speed. The top 2, Bryce Whitson Jr., John Peters, have pulled away by about 7/10 over the rest of the field. As again, these guys third on back continue to battle. The 98 of Ricky Harden is now the one on the inside trying to make something work, could not do so, and Nick Cohan's able to hang on to that position. Now the 07 of Cody Gibson going to get around that 98. Ricky Harding going to drop back another spot, and now side by side once again in the 3.
Yeah, we saw a bit of onboard action there. Gary Whitson getting a slight piece of a wall. Talking about a truck who got a piece of a wall, I actually saw James Kahula down in the pit road getting some damage repaired a couple laps ago. At least I think actually, yes, it must have been because he's out of a race. I'm beginning to wonder when the fuel window is going to open for these trucks. Obviously, if they can make it to about lap 27 or lap 28, they, of course, being the trucks that didn't pit under the first caution, that will indicate that perhaps they can make it to the end on just one pit stop. Meanwhile, as you say, Evan, and oh, okay, maybe not. John Peters is going to challenge for the lead on Bryce Whitson. I was thinking these 2 drivers were doing a very good job of running nose to tail and actually able to draft away from the rest of the pack. But now that they've begun running side by side, Dan Murray in third is beginning to run them down.
Yeah, Murray's going to close it in to 43 hundredths of a second, that time by the stripe, as John Peters continuing to work the inside, side by side with Bryce Whitson Jr. Can't get it done once again. That 00 truck knows how to navigate that high line, and what he's using to his advantage most is being able to get back to the gas and get that run, almost like coming down the hill off of corner number 2 on that high side. Gives him a little bit of speed down this long back straightaway, and that's what's been able to put that 00 back up in front. Now the 151 of John Peters with a great run at a corner number 4. You see the 00 is going to block them. They cannot go below that white line before the start finish line, so the block's going to be put on by that 00. John Peters now looks to the high side and then dives down low, trying to pull an arc down into the corner all the way to the bottom of the racetrack, and can't make it stick once again.
Yeah, every time John Peters attempts to pass down low, it seems he gets a little bit tight, and now that's really going to cost him because Dan Murray is going to take second place from him. Well, or at least is going to attempt to take second place from him. We'll see who gets a better run through the corner here. Oh, Dan Murray does not. He actually steps out loose on the low line, but John Peters overshot the turn. There coming into the pits. That's why they will slide in around a little bit. So they will have to make 2 stops. John Peters, Dan Murray, Nick Cohan, and Cody Gibson, and Aaron Eastler all in.
Yeah, they nearly entered pit road in a 3-wide situation. So now this field has spread out as cars down on the pit lane for service. John Peters in the number 151 machine, the 5 of Dan Murray. Dan Murray is going to be the first car to actually lead these guys on the pit road, the first truck for that matter, and looks like that 5 was actually able to put a pass on the 151 on entry, tried to get a little bit more out of it as he leaves pit road. Dan Murray, that is, he's going to take a 4-tire stomping off. Nick Cohan, Cody Gibson, and those guys on back going to exit as well as they cycle back to the racetrack. Aaron Eastler also exiting pit road, a 2-tire stop for the 33.
I was going to say, he must have done something to be able to leapfrog them all like that. It'll be interesting seeing how that pays off for him. Meanwhile, our leader, Bryce Whitson, is down in the pits. So we'll have to wait and see where Bryce Whitson comes out with regards to all this. Now, Aaron Eastler may very well be your leader when this is all said and done. But how quick are the rest of the pack going to catch him with Aaron just running on those 2 right-side tyres?
That's an interesting call for the number 33 crew as they cycle back out onto the racetrack, and Orion still needs to cycle through an update. He sits right now in position 11. Ricky Harden still sits in the number 1 spot. He has assumed that position. Gary Whitson, the number 13, has now cycled back up to the number 2 spot. So the one thing that a whole lot of these guys, if you're Nick Cohan on back, you've got guys like Cody Gibson, John Peters, John Martin, all of these guys 1 lap down, because they had to come down and make their stop. So this is not the time that you want to see a caution flag if you've already completed service.
Yeah, and I believe we went about 6 or 7 laps at the start of the race before the first caution went out, so that's how many more laps we're going to have to wait until the leaders pit. We're currently watching the leader, Ricky Harding here, currently running in first position, because he is the first of the trucks that pitted under the first caution that has yet to make his stop. And really, these guys could be at an advantage here, Evan, if they are able to make it on just this 1 stop coming up in about 4 or 5 laps, and then make it to the end of the race, whereas all the trucks we just saw down pit road are going to have to pit again.
These guys coming down, and it's going to be about 2 laps short of the halfway point, so they may be able to stretch it. But again, those were the guys up in the front of the field that did not pit on our first caution flag, where guys 9th on back took advantage of that. So this could come down to being very close. You see, that first caution came a little bit of, maybe 4 or 5 laps into this race, and now the drivers that pitted under that caution are announcing that they got to come down pit road, and we're only 3 laps past the halfway point. So a lot of these guys, not only the ones that completed their service 5, 6 laps ago that started this cycle green flag pit stops, but all of them in general are going to be able to, they're going to have to stretch this thing.
Yeah, but of course a caution could throw a curveball into that. So having clean hands coming in, I'll tell you what though, I did not like his pit entry. He seemed to be going very slow for a very long time there. Jason Christen, David Gibson, and Dan Wintour behind him were able to close in a little bit. So these are all those drivers that are gonna hope probably for a caution at some point to try and stretch their fuel so that they can make it to the end without having to pit again.
Yeah, definitely a caution. It could provide an advantage as these guys would be able to save some fuel. The 3 of David Gibson is in pit road as we speak right now. A couple other guys coming down to complete their service. The 45 of Alex Bates is slow at a corner number 4. He's going to bring his Tracker Boat Chevrolet down to the pit road for his stop, and what again he's going to hope is going to be his final stop of the race, as Ricky Hardin, who currently leads this race as they complete lap number 30 up in the front of the field, last pitted on lap number 7. So that's gonna, we got trouble. The 118 of Carson Obes around at a corner number 2.
But it keeps on the apron. Is that going to bring out a caution?
Looks like we're gonna stay green. Not sure what happened. The 18 went down into the corner, and just kind of didn't turn that wheel enough. Just kind of drove that thing into the fence. He gets back going, but he stayed off the racing surface, so green flag remains out.
Ricky Harding may be the leader of this race right now, but I'll tell you who's going to be the leader once all the stops over, and that is Dan Murray. We talked about Aaron Isla running on those 2 right side tyres. Dan Murray on the 4 tyres has been able to run him down and pass him for what will soon be the lead, although Aaron Isla is not in a hurry to give it up, but still a lot of pit strategy left to play before this one is over.
This race is still far from over. Again, Ricky Hardin came down pit road lap 31, so he made it about 23, 24 laps there after pitting on lap number 7. So you gotta believe that those guys that came in before the halfway point, they're gonna be short on fuel here moving forward. The guys that pitted lap 20, 28 on back, that second kind of group of guys that came through, pretty much all the ones that pitted on that lap 7 mark, they should be good to go. And again, iRacing does not include green-white checkers, so there's no overtime that you got to count for. You don't need any extra fuel. So I think if you were in that first group of guys, you're not done for service in tonight's race.
Yeah, but the saving grace is that if a racing becomes anything like what it was at the start of this race, there should be a caution to throw in there at some point. I'll tell you what, Aaron Isla has done a marvellous job at keeping up with Dan Murray, probably helped by the draft coming off of that number 5 truck. The pit stops have cycled through. Dan Murray and Aaron Isla are now running first and second, with Nick Cohan, Gary Whitson, and Cody Gibson rounding out the top 5. But I'll tell you what, there's a 3-way battle for 4th going on right now.
And Gary Whitson is leading that charge, and there's a little bit of right side damage on his number 13 truck. Nothing serious from what it appears to be, but definitely the right side of that machine has met the fence at some point in tonight's race. The 07 of Cody Gibson kind of playing it safe, stays on the high side. The 85 is the one that was on the attack, and he's going to kind of slide up at a corner number 2. It's going to be side by side though for 5th down the back.
Getting very close racing here between Gary Whitson and Darren Cleanhans, leaning on each other practically, and Cody Gibson, he could make it 3 wide if he wanted, and it's going to be John Peters actually making it 3 wide. Wants to try and get back up there front, and Gary Whitson, I guess, is going to conserve his tyres a little bit because he just fell back behind all of them.
Yeah, the 151 of Peters went up the middle. The 07 is sideways. Cody Gibson trying to hang on to it. He does at a corner number 2, but it's going to slide him back all the way to position number 6 as that battle now single files out. Up at the front of the field, an update on our top 3. Dan Murray leads it in the works, currently 34 out of 50 right now. He has a 4/10 of a second lead over Aaron Isla, who's working that 2-tire strategy to get back up there, and also Nick Cohan sits 3rd, 1 second off. So the top 3 all separated by just 1 second, and then a little bit of a buffer between those guys and the battle that we saw for 4th on back.
Yeah, meanwhile, to give you an update on the drivers less fortunate, obviously we've had Ty Hester and Jim Foose who crashed under caution. James Quahula, who brought his car down to pit road and has retired from the race. Carson Orbey is currently sitting 3 laps down. He's got damage on his number 118 truck. Other than that, we have 17 trucks still left on the lead lap. There's about to be a pass for second here. Nick Cohan has a good run on Aaron Isla.
And it is going to be that side-by-side down into corner number 1, the 33 truck of Aaron Isla, maybe feeling the ill effects. Oh, and now the 21's going to slide up. Wow, Nick Cohan threw it down there into the corner, slid up, and right in front of Aaron Isla. That could have got ugly. The 33 is going to get on the binders and stay off of him, but in the end, the 21's able to get up to position number 2. So again, I think Aaron Isla is feeling the ill effects of that race car on 2 tires. Remember, he was just 4/10 back from Dan Murray. Right now, as they battle side by side, it was 9/10 that last time by. So if we're going to see a challenger, I think you got to see right now it's going to be Nick Cohan, who now advances to the number 2 spot, scoring updates this time by. It's a 1.2 second gap from 1st to 2nd.
Yeah, Nick Cohan, never count him out until the end. We've learned that in the past. well, there's actually been some good battles going on all throughout the field. A three-way battle for 6th, and we also had a five-way battle for 12th a little while ago. That's actually broken up a little bit by now. So still plenty of action going on, and caution could really stir things up here. 13 laps left to go when Dan Murray crosses the line this time by. He will be completing lap 37 of 50. And we're actually watching this battle for 12th going on right here. 13th rather. John Martin and Dan Winter, who I believe were running top 10 earlier, falling back a little bit, running side by side, and that makes Alex Bates run right up on them. They are all over each other in this little pack here.
Yeah, the 45 was kind of squeezed up to the fence. That's Alex Bates' machine, who's 14th position by the start-finish line in a side-by-side battle. Who hang on to that spot, the 87 of John Martin trying to hang on and will not do so. That Guinness machine looks real true and loose at a corner number 2. And a little bit of a snapping loose machine. The 81 of Dan Winter sideways off the corner. That's going to give the 45 of Alex Bates a run. Does he use it? No, he does not. They will remain single file. That would be a battle for the number 13 position down through 3 and 4.
Meanwhile, as we continue to watch this battle, I'll give you a little update on what's going on up front. Nick Cohan has taken second from Aaron Isla, and he is reeling in Dan Murray. He is only a second back now, but I believe they are 2 trucks that will have to make another stop before the end of this race.
Yeah, we're going to have to see here, and Nick Cohan, as it sits right now, is putting down some lap times faster than our race leader, Dan Murray. It was cut from 1.2 to 1 second, and now this time by the start-finish line, scoring an update, only 0.8 of a second. Going to separate the top 2 on the racetrack as they run right now. That was 11 to go that last time by the start-finish line. So if these trucks were to make it on fuel, Nick Cohan looks like he could be putting up a challenge here for that number 1 position. But again, fuel still a big question mark moving forward here in these final few laps. And now Bryce Whitson Jr., the 00, has been forced to come down pit road for his final stop and fuel.
Yeah, short pit, and meanwhile, someone who did not have a good lap was John Peters in 5th place. He had got a bit of understeer because of the dirty air coming off of Aaron Kleinhahn's truck in front of him. He got the turn 2 wall pretty good, but he's still running out there on the track in 5th position. I'm sure that's not going to help his handling. So, Bryce Whitson has made his stop. Now let's see who will be the second to blink, because these drivers, I guess, seem pretty confident that this race is going to stay green to the end. And if that's the case, if you're going to pit, why not get it done a little bit early? 9 laps left to go when they cross the line. Now, let's not forget, as we mentioned earlier, there are no green-white checkers on iRacing. So if we have a caution come out with about 4 or 5 laps left to go, everyone may be able to coast their way to the finish line under caution.
I was just about to mention that if we see a caution in those very close-in laps, 4 laps or so, which is at a time that it would take iRacing to cycle through a full caution period, you can pretty much guarantee lap 46, maybe lap 47 on, if a caution flies at that point, the race would essentially end. They do have to make it on field, however, those last few caution laps. So that's why you may see some of these guys trying to stay out to the last second. Now the 151 of John Peters has announced that he's going to come down pit road and has to get on the binders right in front of Ricky Harden. But 151 of John Peters down pit road for his final stop for service. So you got to be thinking Dan Murray and that 5 truck's going to be having to come down soon.
Well, Dan Murray has another issue right now, and that is the number 21 truck of Nick Cohan. He will get him within a couple of laps here if they stay out on track. Nick Cohan has really run them down. Another truck who came down to the pit road recently is one of our points leaders, Tim Johnston. John Martin just announced that he is pitting in, so there are pit stops going on right now. And Dan Murray is coming in, and here comes Nick Cohan. So, Nick Cohan and Dan Murray come in. Aaron Kleinhans and Aaron Isla go into the lead, but I believe they have to pit again still. So we'll see who comes out on top once this all shakes out.
And this is going to be interesting because the 5 of Dan Murray and the 21 of Nick Cohan coming down pit road, bumper to bumper. The 87 nearly comes out in contact as John Martin was trying to get back out to the racetrack. But let's see where these 21 and a 5 stack up. Fuel only for Nick Cohan. Dan Murray going to take fuel only as well, but the 21 of Cohan takes on less fuel and he'll leave first.
Yeah, meanwhile, the Aaron Kleinhans and Aaron Isla, the Aarons currently leading the race. 6 laps left to go as they cross the line. They stay out for another lap. And I believe Ricky Harding in third was one of those late pivots. So I want to keep an eye on him. I'm wondering if he'll be the one who cycles out the winner if he can make it on fuel.
Yeah, taking a look, Aaron Kleinhans in that 85 truck who currently leads this race, last pitted on lap number 29. So I believe that 85 should be able to make it to the end of this thing, as Aaron Isler now has to announce that the 33 truck has to come down pit road. I think Kleinhans may be able to make it the rest of the distance here because that's only going to be about 21, 22 laps, and we've seen guys do 23 plus, so it'll be close for the 85 truck.
Alright, but now what we're going to have to keep an eye on is what relative pace are Kleinhans and Harding running to each other. Harding hugging that apex a lot better in turns 1 and 2, but drifts up as he gonna get very close to the wall, but actually avoids it, and that was a nice arc. He actually did that pretty much as perfect as he could, and he's going to gain a little bit on Kleinhans here because of course he's got the advantage of the draft.
You got to get everything out of this racetrack that you can here in these closing laps. 12 drivers remain on the lead lap as Aaron Kleinhans comes by the start-finish line. This time by is going to be 4 laps to go, so a caution from this point on would end it. However, Ricky Hardin, the 98 machine, closing fast. It's 2 truck lengths. He is flying through corners number 1 and 2, and in the closing laps, Hardin's going to steal this one, I think, down the back.
Now, if my memory isn't well, let's watch this first. Let's watch Ricky Harding on the low line, and actually, Aaron Kleinhans gets a poor entry, but as Ricky overshot the center of the corner a little bit, drifts up. Aaron Kleinhans may get a better run on exit.
Oh.
This reminds me of the end of a race at Pocono last week. I believe it was Ricky Harding running down for Nick Cohan for the win there, and he couldn't make the move in time. The caution flew, and Nick Cohan took the win. Ricky Harding does not want the same to happen again this week. He wants to make that move before any kind of caution flag flies. He gets a good round coming off of turn 2 here. Is he going to make it on the back stretch?
Oh, he's in the fence.
Gets in the wall, and into the lead goes Harding.
And these guys are both good on fuel. The 98, I do believe, has the stronger truck, but Kleinhans was able to defend using that outside lane and not allowing the 98 of Hardin to get that run off the corner, and just drove it, ended up at a fence there at a corner number 2, and it is going to be a Ricky Hardin race to lose. At 2 laps to go, his Chevrolet is going to take the lead by 3/10.
Yeah, but now Aaron Kleinhans has a slipstream, and he is not giving up. He drives in much hard into the corner. Let's see if he can hold it on the exit. He does drift up a little bit here. Meanwhile, I don't know what the story... Oh, no, and into the wall he goes again. That's pretty much going to give Hardin the win there. I've got to make a note that Aaron Isler has retired from the race. I don't know what the story there is, but I am a bit curious because we haven't seen when these trucks made it to lap 24 earlier on in the race. That was aided by a caution flag. How long can they go on green flag fuel? Will Ricky Hardin make it to the end on fuel? Well, we'll find out in less than a lap here because he's just taken the white flag.
Yeah, less than 2 miles to go now before that 98 of Ricky Hardin can cross the start-finish line. The flag is obviously going to end the race. It's going to be the checker, the last lap in action right now. So no matter what happens, we're not going to see a yellow. It's Aaron Kleinhans hanging on to the number 2 spot as he limps.
Is out of fuel. It's
he's
Kleinhans
limping.
Out of fuel.
And he's slow on the apron. There goes Gary Whitson. Kleinhans going to come up 2 corners short. On the fuel, he's going to drop well back in the standings, but the 98 of Ricky Hardin at a corner number 4.
Ricky Hardin crosses the finish line. He wins. He had enough fuel. Gary Whitson is going to get second, but as you say, story now, how far is Aaron Kleinhans going to fall? He was second with 2 turns to go. He is dropping like a rock. He is already back. is about to lose 5th place to Benny Ellison here, or rather 4th place goes Alex Bates by for 5th, Dan Winter gets 6th, and Aaron Kleinhans will have to settle for 7th.
Wow. And a tough break there. So that shows you he had 22 laps and he came up just short. Think if that 85 was in the lead at the time that he ran out of gas. So what a turn of events. Kleinhan's going to drop back to 7th position, 20 seconds back from Ricky Harden, who's going to steal that win there in the closing laps after starting back in the unlucky number 13th position. Ricky Harden is going to put it in victory lane.
Yeah, and 13, a very lucky number for Ricky, and it looks like he still has enough fuel to make it around to the front stretch and put on a few burnouts for the fans here. However, we're going to take a quick break and be back to you with the full race results as the 98 lights them up on the front stretch here at Michigan International Speedway. Congratulations, Ricky Harden. Hello and welcome back to Michigan International Speedway, where we just saw a race full of side-by-side racing, strategy and a bit of controversy. And in the end though, it was Ricky Hardin taking away the spoils here after 50 laps at Michigan International Speedway. 3.8 seconds behind him was Gary Whitson. Jason Christen managed to get a third place finish. I don't really think we mentioned him a whole lot that race. Benny Ellison in fourth, Alex Bates in fifth. These are all drivers that use strategy to get top 5 finishes. Dan Winter, Aaron Kleinhans, Nick Cohan, Dan Murray and Cody Gibson rounded out the top 10. Evan.
Yeah, 11th place was the final car to finish on the lead lap. John Peters, he's the guy that we saw up front. The 151 takes home 11th. Now, the guys that are one lap down, 12th position is Bryce Whitson Jr., David Gibson, 13th position. Tim Johnson going to come home 14th. John Martin going to walk away with the 15th place result. Tim Knott, the last car, one lap down. The 141 gets a 16th place result. Carson Obe going to finish the 118 in 17th spot, 4 laps down. 5 laps down and retiring in the closing laps was Aaron Easler's number 33. He comes home 18th. 19th going to be James Krahula, 32 down. 44 back and 45 back positions, 20th and 21st. The big story of tonight, Jim Foose, Ty Hester, after emotions got hot and heavy there in those opening laps, those two cars could round out your field.
Yeah, and let's give a quick description of what happened there. Not taking sides, but apparently what happened is Ty Hester was disqualified from the race because of excessive profanity over the radio. Jim Foose was the one who imposed the disqualifications, and that's why you saw Ty Hester, or we assume that's why you saw Ty Hester running into Jim Foose during that first, and in fact, only caution period of the race. Well, we have a few of the drivers with us to talk to, and first of all, we're going to talk to our race winner, Ricky Hardin. Ricky, congratulations on your win today.
Thank you, buddy. It was redemption after last week at Pocono. So I was pretty happy.
Yeah, we mentioned that we figured you were attempting to make a move before any kind of caution flag flew, and then in the end, Aaron Kleinhans didn't actually have enough fuel to finish the race. How much fuel did you have left?
I had about a lap and a half extra this week. Last week it was going to be really, really close, and I saved and saved. And I was going to have enough to beat Nick, and I knew he wasn't going to make it back. So this week it was almost the exact same strategy, and turned out not very many people tried it, so made it back to the line first.
Well, there was certainly a lot of exciting racing out there, so we're sure you enjoyed it. Obviously, you got the best result out of it. What are your thoughts on Bristol Motor Speedway next weekend?
My thoughts are that it's going to be really, really hard to pass. The bottom line at Bristol on iRacing is garbage, and we'll have to run right up next to the wall, and there'll probably be a lot of cautions. But, there are only like 3 races left, I think, till the chase, and I'm really, really trying hard to get there. I think this was my 5th race. So far, I've been lucky enough to finish in the top 5 every week, but I need to win the rest, I think, to get in.
Well, you certainly did that today, so congratulations, Ricky, and we wish you the best on attempting to get into the chase.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys doing the broadcast. I'm sure it's always a lot of fun to watch every week.
Well, thank you. We enjoy doing it. All right, we are going to now interview our 3rd place finisher, Jason Christen, so I'm going to hand it over to my co-commentator, Evan.
And that's right, we're down here on pit road, caught up with the driver of the number 02 machine, who's going to come home in position number 3. And Jason, a sleeper in tonight's race, and didn't really talk much about the 02, and kept that nose clean, was able to walk away with that top 3 finish after starting in 7th. Walk us through your night.
My night went pretty good, Evan. Almost screwed myself a couple times getting loose off of turn number 2, but decided to play the fuel mileage. Fuel strategy game, and for once it actually paid off for me.
Now walk us through that fuel strategy, because we saw that come into effect late in the race when a handful of drivers that did not make that first stop had to come down to top off. You were able to ride that strategy into victory lane. Was that your, or rather into the top 3 here and to be able to make the podium position. But was that the plan from the start of the race, to hopefully take that caution flag period to get the stop? What was the idea behind all that? And did you know that it was going to get you to the end, or was it a little bit of a gamble?
I was very close to making it to the end. I was actually, after that last pit stop, I was actually saving fuel, clutching it, going at 1 and 3. But I was actually hoping for a couple more cautions so it wouldn't be a fuel mileage race, because they've normally fit me in the rear in the past, and oddly enough, this one worked.
Moving forward out of tonight's result, we move on to race number 13. Going to be coming up next week, the UNOH 100 from the Bristol Motor Speedway. What are your thoughts moving into that? How confident are you at that track?
I'm not really sure about my chances at Bristol. It's always been hit or miss for me. I've either done really well or I've been upside down on the other side of the pit wall, so I'm not really sure about how that's going to go.
Copy that. Well, entering tonight 5th in the championship standing, so the chase for the championship looks well within your grasp here moving forward, but the one category that you're obviously looking to improve on is that wins. No wins so far moving into the season. What is the difference that you and that O2 crew is going to need to make to get those couple more spots and end up in victory lane?
I think for me, I'm just going to have to stop playing it safe. I usually, try to outlast people, but no, I'm not really sure. I'm not really much of a racer. I'm more of a painter, but I'm trying my best.
And before we let you go, any sponsors and shout outs you want to throw out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank ReadyToRescue.org, Pappy's Pet Lodge, Exide Batteries, and Big Sunflower Seeds for my sponsorships.
10-4, well, again, congratulations on the top 3 finish. Good luck moving forward. And we're going to send it back up to you, Samuel.
Yes, we have our 8th place finisher now in the booth with us, and Nicholas Cohan, who was running up in the top 5 for the most of the race. So, Nick, I've got to imagine you're not too pleased with an 8th place finish.
No, it kind of sucks, but I got lucky last week with the fuel, so I guess it came back to bite me this week. And same goes for Ricky. He had bad luck there with the fuel, and this week it worked out for him. So congrats to Ricky there.
Now I've got to confess, from the broadcast seat watching the race, it looked like one of the most wildest races of the season as far as 2, 3, 4 wide racing went. Were you guys really trusting each other that much? Did you really believe you could all keep that up without wrecking?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. You know, I've raced with Dan, Bryce, and Gary, and Ricky, and all of them up front there, and it was a lot of trust up there because, you know, you don't run 3 wide with people you don't normally run with, and it was a lot of fun out there, especially, you know, the trust thing is what makes it fun, knowing that you have some clean drivers up front there.
Now, Nick, you had CJ Automotives on the hood of your truck today, and they helped sponsor this race. Would you like to inform our audience at home what CJ Automotive does for the public?
Yeah, sure. CJ Automotive, my dad started back in 1972, and still going strong, selling used cars and trucks and vans, anything you want, we can get it, and quality cars and trucks. So check out the website cjautopa.com, and yeah, check it out.
And we second that, for especially considering they sponsored such a great race today. Now, talking about this side-by-side racing, we're going to Bristol Motor Speedway next week. Think you can race side-by-side there?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of paint swapping, but it definitely will be side-by-side racing. And the last time we raced here, I think we had the Cup cars there, and there was only maybe 1 caution, and it was pretty exciting. I actually won that one, but it was a lot of fun there.
Well, we wish you the best next week. Maybe you'll be able to follow it up with another win.
Alrighty, thank you guys.
Thank you. So, that was Nick Cohan, and I am currently looking in the broadcast booth. We have a league organizer, Jim Foose. And Jim, before we get into questioning about, well, let's just talk about what happened under that first caution, because we're very curious.
Well, you know, I have had a history.
Been wrecked a lot by him over the last couple of years. He did essentially what I did to him tonight at Kansas to me. I didn't see it that way from inside the truck, but guy on the outside comes down a little bit, guy on the inside doesn't move down, and they touch, and the guy on the outside goes around. Well, that's all fine and dandy. He continued on at Kansas. I think he won the race. I didn't. Obviously, I got destroyed. But tonight, it just one of those deals, racing hard, and he continued to come down and come down and come down, and I got into him. I turned him, and he launched into a tirade during the caution, and my fellow league officials, not myself, made the decision to disqualify him from the event, and he just continued on down the track full throttle and plowed into my Menards Ream Chevy Silverado and effectively took us out of the race tonight, and effectively removed himself from the league as well. So as mad as I am that happened to our team, we had a good truck tonight, and this was a race that we had circled on the calendar. We thought we were going to do really good. I'm happy that he showed his butt, and that we all know that he's the idiot that he is. So I'm happy for that, and I'm happy that everybody got to see it.
Yeah, well, being a league organizer, I'm sure you've got to be at least content with the way the rest of the race went. We saw very high quality driving by the front runners out there. To be honest, the quality of racing that we're seeing up front in the American Sim Racing Series seems to be getting stronger every week.
Yeah, definitely. These guys have really put together a good program. All of our drivers have to run competitively, and you've seen Aaron Kleinhans. I got to meet him at Eldora a couple weeks ago, and it was really nice to get to meet him. We met the Whitsons and a couple other guys, but yeah, he's leading the race, and he tried to pull Kyle Larson there, and I think he got the wall a little extra, but really happy to see that, and happy to see different guys up front. It's not the same guy every week, same group, but every week it's somebody else leading, and it's really exciting to see and really competitive. Like I said, we've not been a front runner all year with our team, and we've done everything that we can to put ourselves in positions to get a good finish at the end, and we've done that on a few occasions. But what happened tonight, I'm upset about it. Obviously, as a driver, as a league owner, I'm quite embarrassed about it, and I just want to go out there because I know there's a couple people that do watch, that are watching tonight and are planning on coming and joining us. That's not something that we tolerate here, and that will be taken care of from the league side with penalties and such. Unfortunately, I don't get to write the penalties for that one, although I'm pretty sure they could probably write themselves at this point.
All right, and I'm going to hand it over to Evan for one final question before we let you go, Jim. So, Evan.
Yeah, moving forward after tonight's race, you entered 8th in the standings, and that's only a 20-point buffer over Dan Winter, who entered tonight's 10th. Now, he does have a little bit of a gap between him and Alan Young, who was 11th, and obviously moving forward, still 3 races to go. But are there any, what kind of major championship and chase hopeful implications does tonight's race mean for your team?
Mark my words, if I miss the chase this year, I will personally drive on down to Georgia and I'll rearrange his face.
10-4 to that. Moving forward to Bristol. Next race, Bristol, a lot of beating and banging in that short track. How confident are you into that one?
Well, Bristol's the only track I've ever seen myself out on the first lap. But, we have a couple wins at Bristol back in NR 2003. And we'll do what we can. We've done good on short tracks, and we did good at Bristol earlier this year in the Herbalife Series, as well as the Pro Series, which is the Gen 6 car over here. So, we'll see how we do, and got a brand new Menard Chevy we're taking to Bristol next week, and kind of excited about that, and just see how everything is. I haven't got to run they changed the tire compound on us a couple weeks ago for this season on iRacing with the new build and all, and haven't got to run the new tires on a short track yet. So should be quite exciting. I know we ran them at Iowa, but that's it's kind of one of those deals. Or I ran at Iowa and something a couple nights ago, but just haven't got to run them on a real short track. So I'm kind of excited.
Well, thanks for coming to talk to us this evening, Jim. We'll let you go now and get ready for Bristol Motor Speedway.
Thank you guys, and thanks for everything that you guys do with the broadcast and for the league. It's been great, and we're looking forward to Bristol next week and all the races we have for the rest of the year, guys. It's really a blast, and getting to go back and watch some of the old broadcasts are pretty fun. You guys do a phenomenal job, and we're just happy to have you. I do want to make one quick shout out there. My Uncle Joe out in Arizona usually watches these races, so just like to let him know that I know he watches them, and he's probably hiding from everybody, locked in his house right now, so that nobody knows what he's actually doing. But anyways, you guys do a great job, and thank you again.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very entertaining series to commentate to, and I'll tell you what though, it wouldn't be possible without some certain people and software, so we are going to give a shout out to them now. First of all, once again, we've got to thank CJ Automotive for helping sponsor this race. They have been your go-to used car dealer in Eastern Pennsylvania since 1972. They've been selling the best quality cars, trucks and vans for over 40 years now, and they're still going strong. See what you want, they can get for you. Call CJ Automotive today at 610-863-4448 or visit them at cjautopA.com. And of course, the number 21 truck raced with them on the hood today. Nick Cohan was able to pull off an 8th place finish as he continues his quest for the ASRS Truck Series title. We would like to thank Jim Foose and Mark Myers, the organisers of this league. We would also like to thank the makers of the various software and hardware that help make the stream possible: iRacing.com, XSplit, Audio Technica and Ava Media. Thanks to the team today, Kevin and Evan. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel, and Facebook at facebook.com/globalsimracingchannel. A big thanks to Dougie Beard for creating the camera sets that you saw during the stream, and a special thanks to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of our music. You can find it not only here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes and Spotify. If you like the music, tell Eric where you heard it at ericekholm.com. Our next race in the American Sim Racing Series will be round 13 at Bristol Motor Speedway, same time, same place, 9 PM Eastern Time next week at Wednesday. So until then, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.